Hey guys, so in this tutorial we're going to be building a Gatsby and Stripe checkout e-commerce application and site. So if you'll notice, this is just a basic Gatsby starter site, but we've integrated it with Stripe checkout, and so all this data is being fetched with GraphQL and is pulling all the data directly from Stripe. So we've got our little shopping cart up here. We can clear it, and so if we add a couple of products, so we've got 3 shirts and we can check out, and if you notice we're going to deploy this live onto Vercel, which we'll get to later in the tutorial. Click checkout. Now we've got Stripe checkout showing up. We can add in some test information. Here's the 3 products and their images and the total, and we can enter in just a dummy kind of credit card that Stripe provides for testing. Enter in our details, pay $60. We get a green check, and everything looks good. Come to our Stripe dashboard, come to the payment screen, refresh, and we bought $60 worth of t-shirts. Here's the 3 of them, and then you can see the timestamp 12:03, 12:03. So that's the application that we're going to be building. So let's jump right into it and get started. Okay, so to get started, first I just want to let you know that this tutorial is based upon a blog post which you could find at this URL here. And I also will post it in the description below. But essentially what this blog post will go through step-by-step of all the commands you need to run with screenshots, code snippets, and everything you need. So if you get a little bit stuck watching the video, definitely check out this blog post, as it has a lot more information and goes kind of in greater depth. So to begin, the first thing we need to do is we need to actually install Gatsby. Now I already have it installed, but if you don't have it installed, let me show you in the docs where you can find out how to do that. Gatsby install. So if you go to gatsbyjs.com/docs quick start, you can install it that way. You can initialize it like this. Once you have it set up and installed, you're going to want to run the command Gatsby new, and then just give it a name. I'm going to call mine Stripe Checkout. Great, so once it's installed, you just want to cd into the directory and do Gatsby develop, and that will spin up the dev server just to make sure everything's installed and working properly. Okay, so if you go to localhost 8000, you should see the Gatsby default starter. Now that our local dev server is running, we want to go back and we want to install the necessary packages we need for integrating with Stripe. So we're going to do npm install at stripe/stripe-js, and then we're also going to pass in this Gatsby source Stripe. So this first package is a package that Stripe provides to allow us to integrate and talk to their API. And this second is a Gatsby source plugin, which allows us to communicate with our Stripe account. Okay, so now that we have that installed, we need to configure this plugin within our Gatsby site. So let's open this up in our code editor. I'm using VS Code, but you can use whatever you want. Open up Gatsby config, and then underneath this Gatsby plugin React helmet, just add in another object. And we're going to type in resolve Gatsby source Stripe, and options is an object, and we're going to pass it a couple of things. The objects is an array, and this array is going to be the various items that we want to query from Stripe. And so in this case we're going to be querying the price, but if you check out the Gatsby source Stripe documentation for this particular plugin, you can query a whole bunch of different objects in Stripe, but we only need the Stripe one, or I'm sorry, the price one for this project. Secret key, this is something we're going to fill in later. We're going to use environment variables, so I'm just going to put that in there as a placeholder for now, and then we're going to do download files false. Okay, so now that we've got this set up, let's actually create our environment variables. The way we're going to do this is we're going to store them into a special .env file. That way they won't get checked into version control and they won't be publicly accessible. So we're going to create a file called .env.development, and then we're going to create another one called .env.production. So if you open up this files, .env.development, .env.production, and you can see they're grayed out because by default at the very bottom of this git ignore, Gatsby will automatically ignore all of these env files so that they don't get exposed to the outside world. So let's do Gatsby Stripe secret, and we're going to call the second one publishable. In order to get these keys, we need to head back over to our Stripe account. If you don't already have one, just go to stripe.com and you can just sign up for a free account. And once you're logged in, make sure this viewing test data is toggled on. Go to developers, go to API keys. Again, this is very important. This is on, otherwise you're going to be using live keys, which you don't want to do. We're going to copy this publishable key, head back over to our code, paste it in here. We actually need to copy the same exact information over to production. So everything we do in development, we're also going to paste into our production keys. Come back, we're going to reveal the secret, copy it, come back to our code, paste, paste in both development and the production. Okay, so now that we have those set up, we need to come back and we're going to copy this variable, Gatsby Stripe secret, and right here where it says secret key, we're going to delete this and we're going to type in process.env. and then the variable name. So the way that this works is depending upon whichever node environment we're in. So if we're in development, like where we are currently on our local machine, it's going to load from this env file, the development one. And when node is in the production environment, it's going to load from this production. So in order to get that to work, however, we actually need to tell node to load in these files. So if you scroll up to the top up here, you're going to add the following. We're going to require this package called .env and use this config method, and we're going to pass in an object, and we're going to pass it the path, which is, give it some backticks, .env. Do some string interpolation here. We're going to do process.env.node.env. So now the way that this will work is this is a package that will include these .env files, and the path variable here, this .env. And then when node is in that development environment, it's going to look for .env.development. When it's in production, it's going to look for the production. Okay, so now that we have that set up, let's head back over to Stripe, and we're now going to set up our products to sell. So if you go to settings and then we go to checkout settings, this is where we're going to configure the Stripe checkout in all of our products. Now, I've already been playing around with this a little bit, so mine might look slightly different, but you want to make sure that you enable client-only integration. There should be a little toggle switch here, and there's screenshots in that blog article. And also down here, I've already added some test products, but it'll say something along the lines of like, create your first product. And so when you click on this link down here, this is where we can add our various products. So let me just delete these, or actually let me archive them, so that way I can walk you through and show you how this works. For my little test demo here, we're going to be selling some developer t-shirts, and there's a link in the article, but I got these from a website called Redbubble. So I just found some like little dev shirts and I downloaded 3 images of them. So if I go to add product, let's see the first. Okay, so yeah, there's like this funny dead Docker image here. So let's call it dead Docker. Upload an image. And then the pricing is going to be standard. It's going to be $20, and it's going to be a one-time charge, and we're going to save. And then I'm going to add 2 more. I've got a JavaScript shirt and a Vue.js shirt. So let's do the Vue one next. We'll do view, $20, one time, save it. And then one more time, let's add in the JavaScript shirt. $20, one time, save it. Okay, so if you go back, you should have at least 3 shirts. I've just got some extras because I've been kind of messing around in here. So now that we have the products set up on Stripe, we need to do a little bit more work back in our code. And so per the Gatsby documentation, one of the things we need to do is extract Stripe into a utility function. So this link is linked in the article. There's this tutorial of their e-commerce tutorial of how to set all this up. So I am going to copy this code, and I'm going to come back to my code, and I'm going to go to source. I'm going to create a new folder called utils, and within utils I'm going to create a new file called stripejs.js, and I'm going to paste this in. So what this is doing is essentially we're loading the Stripe object from that Stripe package that we installed earlier. And essentially what this does is it's basically a singleton. And what that means is it's only going to instantiate a single instance of this Stripe object every time we pass it around, rather than every time we try to access it, it's going to reinstantiate it. So this just makes sure that there's just one object instantiated at any given time. And if you notice there, the key that they give us is called Stripe publishable _ key, but just delete the key portion because ours is just called Gatsby Stripe publishable. Okay, so I actually made a little bit of a mistake and I need to go back and correct something. So for the name of the keys need to be Gatsby _ Stripe _ secret _ key and Gatsby Stripe publishable key. So we're going to copy this and we're going to come back to our Gatsby config and update our variable. So it says Gatsby Stripe secret key, and then our Gatsby Stripe publishable key, we're going to make sure that we paste this into the Stripe utils function, which is inside of source utils stripe.js. Then copy both of these and make sure that the production keys are exactly the same. So now that we've got Stripe and our products set up within Stripe, we need a way to actually display them, and we actually need a shopping cart. So Stripe Checkout doesn't actually give us a shopping cart. We can display our products, but without a shopping cart, our customers would only be able to buy a single product at a time. So we're going to use a package called use shopping cart. So if we come back over to our terminal, we're going to do npm install -s use shopping cart. And while that's installing, where I'm going to be going and getting this information is once you come over to Gatsby's e-commerce tutorial here, if you scroll all the way to the very bottom, there's this link called add shopping cart functionality. If we open up this repo, this is where I'm going to be getting some of the files from. So I'm going to be copying and pasting some files here, but when I paste them in, I'm going to be describing what they're actually doing. So okay, that's installed. So then come over to the repo here and let's go into Gatsby, and we'll go into source pages and then index.js. Open that up, click raw, and then copy and that. Go back to our editor, go to pages, index.js, and then we're going to paste this in. So there's a couple more files we need in order for this to work. So we're going to import this SKUs component and this cart overview. But essentially what we're doing is this cart overview component is coming from that package that we just installed, use shopping cart, and this cart provider is another package that is provided to us, or another component, I'm sorry, that's provided from that package. And this is a wrapper that allows the shopping cart to actually work. And as you can see, we're passing in our Stripe promise, which we're importing from up here, from this load Stripe. And then there's a couple props here for like the success URL. After a successful purchase, it's going to redirect to the page 2, and if you cancel during the checkout, it's going to redirect you to the home page. And then we're also passing in the currency, which is US dollars, and the allowed countries. You can pass in an array here, and then this is telling it if you want to collect the billing address. So then now that we've got so this is like our index page, our main page that we land on when we load up our website. So if we come back over here, we need a couple more components to display everything. So come back to source, come back to components. Sorry, this is just a Octotree plugin. You probably don't have that installed, so I'm not going to use it and confuse you. Go to cartoverview.js, click on raw, copy it, go back, come back to our code editor. Inside of components, create a new file called cartoverview.js and paste this in. Scroll back at the top. We're importing React, obviously, using the shopping cart object from the package. Then we've got some styling. And so now here's where we're going to actually return the shopping cart. It's just some fairly straightforward HTML. But as you can see, we've got the number of items, and this is where the cart count is coming from, like how many products or t-shirts in this case you have. And it also has a handy utility function built into it to format the pricing and currency. And then we've got a button for our shopping cart. One of them is to clear the cart, and then the other one is it'll show actually how many items we actually have, and I'll show you this once we actually fire things up. So we've got to add 2 more things. Going back to components, go back into products, open up SKUcard.js, go back to our code. Under components, make a new folder called products. Within products, a new file called SKUcard.js. Paste this in. And so what this is this is going to actually be the card element that gets displayed on our page. So we're including that format currency string and the shopping cart object. This is just some basic styling for our styled components. And then here's where we're actually creating the cart. So here's our SKU card. And it's very simple. It's just an H4 with the name of the product. And then we've got the price. And then a button in order to add it to the cart. So this is the card that's going to wrap every single one of our components. Then we just have to do one more, which is this SKUs.js. Open this up raw. Go back inside of products. New file SKUs.js. Paste this in. So as you can see, we're importing the SKU card, which we just went over just before this. We've got some styling, and so now we've got, this is kind of where the magic happens. This is where we're actually making our static GraphQL query to the all Stripe price, which is what's querying the Stripe API in the backend. And we're doing a filter where we're only filtering for products that are currently active, and the currency is US dollars. And then we're sorting by the amount. And then this is our actual GraphQL query to get the information we need. So we want products that are active. So this is a Boolean. We want the currency, which is US dollars. We want the unit amount, and then we want the product ID, and then the product name. And then after we get that query, we're going to render it, and we're going to pass in just prices, but you can call this literally anything you want. And then this is when we're actually creating a new SKU object, as you can see here. So we've got this new object. We're mapping over all of the prices, which in this case is really the products coming back. And then we're creating an object with the SKU, the name, the price, the currency. And then we're returning that SKU card, which is what we're importing up here, which is that file we just went over earlier. And then we're passing into the props the SKU prop, the new SKU, which is this object here, and then we're using that to get the SKU name, the SKU currency, the SKU price, etc. So that's kind of how the data is flowing. So with that all set up and configured, let's run Gatsby develop and see if we get any errors. hopefully not. Okay, so far so good. Let's open up our DevTools. We don't have any JavaScript errors, so that's a good sign. And so here we go. Now, unfortunately, mine is still pulling in those products that I archived, so you're only going to have however many products you've added to the Stripe checkout, so more than likely you'll just have these 3. But if I do add to cart, you can see that the total gets updated, and then if I add this, I've got 3 items in my cart. Oh, I must have one from leftover, so let me clear it. If I add these, I've got 2 items now, the total's $40, and now if I do checkout, now we've got Stripe checkout loading. So here's my 2 shirts, here's the $20 each. If I add in my email and all my information, I can then make a charge. So let's just do a dummy purchase. So just fill in some default information. The address is, or the credit card is just 42. Just 4242 4 times. Any date in the future will work, so we can do 0222, and the CVC code can be any number, so I'll just do 111. Pay $40. Cool. Everything went through and it redirected me to the second page, which, if you remember, that is coming from the where is it? Index page in this cart provider. So remember the successful URL prop, we're just getting whatever the URL currently is, and then we're just appending this page 2, so it redirects us to that page 2. So if we go into Stripe now, back in our dashboard, go to payments, and if you remember, you can make sure this viewing test data is toggled on, and as you can see, this payment succeeded, is $40, and this is from jane@test.com, and it's the one we just made today at January 2nd, 11:44. Now that we've got that working, if you notice, if we come back to localhost 8000, back to our home page, it would be nice if we could actually pull in the images so you actually see what you're purchasing, not just the actual name of the product. So let's come back to our code here, and we're going to open up the let's see, skus.js. So in order to do that, we have to update our query. So we need to, under product, we're going to ID, name, and then we're going to do images. So this will actually give us the URL for the image, and then when we scroll down here underneath currency, we can do image, which is price.product.images. And then when we come back into our SKU card, we need to actually use that property. So just above this H4, we can throw in an image tag, and the source is product.image. I'm sorry, SKU.image, because that's the variable we're passing up here. So let's restart our server. You probably could have just refreshed, but I like to restart just in case. Yep, and there we go. Now we're pulling in our images. So now that we've got everything working locally, we're going to now deploy this to Vercel, which is a kind of like a Jamstack / static site hosting service. It's pretty popular within the React community. So let's cancel this. But before we can do that, we need to actually push this up to GitHub. So let's commit our changes. So git add dot git commit -m. I'm just going to call it a init commit. Okay, so then I need to come over to GitHub. I'm going to create a new repository. I'm going to call it Stripe, or I'm going to Gatsby Stripe Checkout. I'll make it private, but it doesn't matter. Create it. And then we're we're going to copy the remote URL, paste that in, git push-u origin master. Great. So let's just confirm. We'll refresh, make sure our code is up there. Great. So now what we need to do is we need to head over to Vercel.com. I'm already logged in, but you can sign up for a free account. And once you sign up, I'm just on the hobby account. That's the free one. So once you've signed up and you're logged in, click on New Project. And it's kind of ordering them depending upon how old they are. So it found Gatsby Stripe Checkout. It's the most recent one because they just created it. I'm going to click on Import. And then I'm going to click on the personal account. Project name, leave that as is. It recognizes that this is a Gatsby project, so the build commands and everything are already configured for us, which is really nice. However, we need to set up these environment variables. So if you remember, we need to come back over here to our code, and let me just close these and close all that, and let's do our keys. So the first thing we need is Gatsby Stripe secret key. So let's paste the name in there, and then let's paste in the actual key. Add it, and then we're going to go back, publishable key, and then paste in the key. Add that. Okay, and then we can just deploy it. This will take a couple minutes or so. So if you notice we're getting an error, you should have gotten the same error that I got, which is error window is not available during server-side rendering. So Webpack is throwing this error because it doesn't have access to the window object. So let me show you how to fix this. This is coming from our pages index.js. And so if you notice right here, the success URL and the cancel URL are trying to access the window object. So just a little way to kind of get around this is we can do a simple little conditional. So we can do const URL equals type of window is not equal to undefined. So if the window is not undefined, we use window.location.origin. Otherwise, null. So this is just a inline or like a ternary little if statement. So we're saying if the window is not equal to undefined, set it to window.location.origin, or if it is undefined, set it to null. And then in order for us to use that, we just replace this with URL. So now that we've got those changes, let's push them up. Fixed window object error. I apologize. I have some shortcuts. So this just stands for git add. This is a shortcut for git commit, and then the message, and then GP is just git push. So we come back over to our code. If we refresh this page, it should be, if we come back, not here. Let's come back to, let's try and just click this deploy again, make sure our variables are, let's see. So it looks like because it's failed, we have to deploy it again. So let's first deploy it first and make sure we get through all the errors, and then we can update our environment variables afterwards. So now we're getting an error because if you scroll back up, it says no Stripe secret key found in Gatsby config. So we actually have to set those variables up before we can actually deploy. So come back here. We're gonna have to do this again. Gatsby Stripe secret key. Paste that in, add it. Come back over here. Gatsby Stripe publishable key. Add. So now we've added our keys, we'll deploy again. Great. So now that our site has been deployed, you should see this congratulations page. Click the visit button. Let's open up our console. No JS errors, which is fantastic. And let's add a couple shirts to the cart. Close this, checkout. And everything seems to be working again. Let's add a little more. So checkout. Oop. Guess that didn't work. Clear the cart. So 3 shirts. Let's do our test account again. 42. Any day in the future is fine, and it's just 4242 4 times. Pay $60. Green check mark, fantastic. And we go to our payments. Here's our $60, January 2nd, and there's our timestamp after this one. So that pretty much wraps it up for this project, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, leave some comments down below and I'll get back to you. And refer to this article because this has all the details for you. See you next time.